The Deserted House by Alfred Lord Tennyson.
Read for LibriVox.org by Lamar Hawkins.
1.
Life and thought have gone away, side by side, leaving door and window wide. Careless tenants they. 2. All within its darkest night, and the window is no light, and no murmur at the door,
so frequent on its hinge before. 3.
Close the door, the shutter close, or through the window we shall see the nakedness and vacancy of the dark deserted house. 4. Come away, no more mirth is here, or merry-making sound.
The house was built of the earth,
and shall fall again to ground. 5. Come away, for life and thought here no longer dwell, but in a city glorious, a great and distant city, abroad a mansion incorruptible.
Well, they could stay with us.
End the poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Dong with the Luminous Nose by Edward Lear. Read for LibriVox.org by Ben Lindsay Clark, treehousetheatre.com, Bournemouth, UK. The Dong with the Luminous Nose. When awful darkness and silence reign over the great Gromboolian plain, through the long, long wintry nights, when the angry breakers roar as they beat on the rocky shore, when storm clouds brood on the towering heights of the hills of the Chankly Bore, then through the vast and gloomy dark there moves what seems a fiery spark, a lonely spark with silvery rays piercing the coal-black night, a meteor strange and bright. Hither and thither the vision strays, a single lurid light. Slowly it wanders, pauses, creeps. Anon it sparkles, flashes and leaps. And ever as onward it gleaming goes, a light on the bong tree stems it throws, and those who watch at that midnight hour, from hall or terrace or lofty tower, cry as the wild light passes along, "The Dong! The Dong! The wandering Dong through the forest goes! The Dong! The Dong! The Dong with the luminous nose!" Long years ago the Dong was happy and gay, till he fell in love with a Jumbly girl, who came to those shores one day. For the Jumblies came in a sieve, they did, landing at eve near the Zemery Fid, where the oblong oysters grow, and the rocks are smooth and grey, and all the woods and the valleys rang with the chorus they daily and nightly sang. Far and few, the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. Happily, happily passed those days, while the cheerful Jumblies stayed. They danced in circlets all night long to the plaintive pipe of the lively Dong, in moonlight, shine or shade. For day and night he was always there, by the side of the Jumbly girl so fair, with her sky-blue hands and her sea-green hair, till the morning came of that hateful day, when the Jumblies sailed in their sieve away, and the Dong was left on the cruel shore, gazing, gazing for evermore, ever keeping his weary eyes on that pea-green seal on the far horizon, singing the Jumbly chorus still, as he sate all day on the grassy hill. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. But when the sun was low in the west, the Dong arose and said, "What little sense I once possessed has gone quite out of my head." And since that day he wanders still, by lake and forest, marsh and hill, singing, "Oh, somewhere in valley or plain might I find my Jumbly girl again. Forever I'll seek by lake and shore, till I find my Jumbly girl once more." Playing a pipe with silvery squeaks, since then his Jumbly girl he seeks. And because by night he could not see, he gathered the bark of the twangum tree on the flowery plain that grows, and he wove him a wondrous nose, a nose as strange as a nose could be, of vast proportions, and painted red, and tied with cords to the back of his head. In a hollow rounded space it ended, with a luminous lamp within suspended, all fenced about with the bandage stout, to prevent the wind from blowing it out, and with holes all round, to send the light in gleaming rays on the dismal night. And now each night, and all night long, over those plains still roams the dong, and above the wail of the chimp and snipe you may hear the squeak of his plaintive pipe, while ever he seeks, but seeks in vain, to meet with his jumbly girl again. Lonely and wild all night he goes, the dong with the luminous nose, and all who watch at the midnight hour, from hall or terrace or lofty tower, cry as they trace the meteor bright, moving along through the dreary night, "This is the hour when forth he goes, the dong with the luminous nose. Yonder over the plain he goes, he goes, he goes, the dong with the luminous nose." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Dulce et Decorum Est by Wilfred Owen. Read for LibriVox by Drew Johnson. Bent double like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge, till on the haunting flares we turned out backs, and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Men marched asleep, many had lost their boots, but limped on, bloodshot. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of tired, outstripped 5-9s that dropped behind. Gas! Gas! Quick, boys! An ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time. But someone still was yelling out and stumbling, and floundering like a man in fire or lime. Dim, through the misty panes and thick green light, as under a green sea I saw him drowning. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in, and watch the white eyes writhing in his hanging face, like a devil's sick of scent, if you could hear, at every jolt, the blood come gargling from the froth-corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the cud of vile incurable sores on innocent tongues, my friend, you would not tell with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory, the old lie, dulce et decorum est, pro patria mori. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
An Epistle from Corinth by William Alexander Percy. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. Paul of Tarsus, I have inquired of Jesus, and meditated much, and read your words directed to the wise Corinthians, of whom am I. There is much beauty in his life, and therefore comfort, and there is beauty in that unreasoning rush of eloquence of yours, so much it almost caught me up and made me Christian. Such is the power of faith, ablaze in one we know to be no fool. I watched you as you preached that day in Athens. You are no fool, nor saint, but one I judge of intellect that somehow has caught fire, and so misleads when it is shiningest. I had hoped to find in you, or in your Christ, some answer to the questions that unanswered slay our wills. There's so much lost. Parnassus there, across the turquoise gulf, still holds its rose and snow to the blown sun, but no young Phoebus drives the golden car, nor will the year's returning loveliness, for all its perfumed broideure, bring again the 12 to the bright mountain place they loved. The gods of Greece are dead, forever dead. The Romans substitute idolatry. And there's such peace and idleness in the world as gives the thinking powers full scope to soar. And soar they do, but in red-beaked bands that darken all the sun and nurture find on the Promethean bare heart of man. How strange to see the labor of the world straining for plenteous food and drink and warmth, for ease and freedom and the right to choose, but winning these win only doubt and anguish. Is this accessory to our coming here? Is there no answer waiting to be found? I judge the struggle for perfection, if engaged in long enough, say through the years of gorgeous youth, the ashen middle years, will end in calm, a kind of stale content, no gush and quiver in the leafless tree. But that's the body's dying, not the fight's reward, old age, not victory. Yet who, save those few souls in stern that, passionate unto perfection, walk the alien earth, scornful and sure, would pledge themselves to lifelong virtue, except exchanged for happiness, here or hereafter? Who, I ask, and hear no answer. 'Twas for the few that Socrates had thought. Your Jesus had profounder bitterness, and wroth against a universal woe, conceived a universal anodyne, heaven, his Father's kingdom, paradise. Hence his success with slave and sick and poor. The solace for their skimped experience they find in dreams of restitution and a promised land, whose king will dower and reward their loyalty with bliss eternal. This promise of his kingdom and the immense illusion that he had, shared still by you, of coming once again and shortly to select mankind for punishment or saving, are above all the concepts that ensure his following, which when the fact disproves will fall away and be forgotten till his name will vanish and the careless years hide with their passing sandals dust his dream. Yet in this Jesus I detect always something more true and sound and saving than the postulates of his philosophy. Compared with Socrates, his intellect lacked wonder, self-delight, sufficiency. The Athenian in his noblest eloquence assumed himself a son of God, yet him I understood, somehow. It seemed at least poetically true. But when your Jew speaks of his Father, all that I never learned is near. I cannot think, but I can feel. And spite of me, I have the sense of wisdom simpler and fruitfuler and wiser than all wisdom we had hardly learned before, that turns irrelevant and pitiful much we had frayed and tattered our poor souls in guessing. Yet when I turn to you for counsel, and who of his untutored band but you is qualified in wide and leisured learning to parley equal-minded with a Greek, I find a blur of words, a wall of thought that more completely hide the God I sense than the fantastic patter of his humble, ignorant worshippers. Paul, I'd give my Greek inheritance, my wealth and youth, to speak one evening with that Christ you love and never saw and cannot understand. But he is dead, and you alone are left, irascible and vehement and sure, for me to turn to with the bleak, bad question, do we then die, or shall we be raised up? There is the hope always of other life. After this choking room, a width of air, a star perhaps after this sallow earth, after this place of prayer, a place of deeds. No man but in his heart's locked privacy dares hope this muffled transiency we hate for its most bitter and ignoble failure ends not with what our ignorance calls death. A Christ with promise of eternity and proof could Christianize 100 worlds. There are such glimpses of the never-seen, such breathings from the outer infinite, the possible hath such nobility as makes us supplicants for further chance. Not repetition, but more scope, O powers! Yet better purposeless mortality than this mad answer you proclaim to us. We shall rise up, you say. So far, well said. This essence that disquieteth itself with less than truth, that will not tolerate the fare whereon 'tis fed, but sickens so for immortalities that it doth shape of its own yearning, piteously, methinks, gods, and a dwelling place of distant stars, this surely hath a strength beyond mere days. But then you add with equal certainty, there's too a resurrection of the flesh. This is your creed and final comfort, Jew, that these our gyves and chains are never slipped, that this captivity we thought a term carks to eternity, do what we will. The impediments to every high resolve, the traitors to our nascent deity, the perfumed, warm, corporeal parts of us that drug to sleep or death the impetuous will, these are partakers of such afterlife as our fierce souls may grievously attain? Taurus, I'll not accept eternal life hampered and foiled by this vile thing of flesh. There is no fire can burn it pure, no rain can wash it clean, no death can scourge its slave. The spirit that is holier than light its touch will stain, its vesture will pollute. You cannot understand. You are a Jew. Your pores, unsentient, have never drunk the perfume of a bush that's red by dawn. And were you here upon this roof tonight, with Corinth at your feet, you'd never know it was a night of summer, never feel the straining on the slender leash of will at all the murmurs and warm silences. There's a girl's laugh and footsteps loitering. You'd never guess why they are slow, nor hear the half-words breathed, nor smile to find yourself wondering if the kiss were mouth or throat. Perfumes. The night wind wakes but to caress, and kissing sleeps. The lover's way. Gods, gods, this fool would have the harlot's mouth immortal as the soul of Socrates. Forgive me, follower of Jesus. I am Greek, all Greek. I know the loveliness of flesh and its sweet snare, and I am hurt at finding nothing where I sought for much. O Paul, had you been more as other men, your wisdom had been wiser. Christ, perhaps, but I was born too late, and so miss all. I see no aim nor end, and yet myself, hopeless of aught of profit from the fight on. Perhaps there's something truer than the truth we can deduce, and after all, our best is but a turning toward the stars, an upward gaze. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ghosts by Margaret Moores Marshall. This is a LibriVox recording by Reese Harrison. They call you cold, New England, but underneath your snow is blood as red as roses that in your gardens blow. The God that lights your forest with torch of cardinal flower forbids that ever the Puritan escape his crimson hour. The flame that skims brown furrows the scarlet tanager's breast, a sign to preacher and ploughman of dreams that haunt their rest. When witch and warlock perished by faggot, scaffold, and tree, their torches slew their bodies, but set their spirits free. In freedom gliding, gloating, through the haunts their children claim, the swollen ghosts of the wicked grow fat and new wrote shame. The all sweet evil lingers, the demon of uncontrol, and madness creeps and crouches in every haggard soul. And he who held moon revels in Salem forest deep, well loves his hypocrite servants, nor seeks to spoil their sleep. They call you cold, New England, but surely even your snow is drift not of ice but of ashes, to guard the flames below. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hope by Joseph Addison. Read for LibriVox.org by Lamar Hawkins. Our lives, discolored with our present woes, may still grow white and shine with happier hours. So the pure limbed stream, when foul with stains of rushing torrents of descending rains, works itself clear, and as it runs refines, till by degrees the floating mirror shines, reflects each flower that on the border grows, and a new heaven in its fair bosom shows. End the poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hymn to Proserpine, after the proclamation in Rome of the Christian faith, by Algernon Charles Swinburne. Read for LibriVox.org by Casper Nijssen. Vicisti, Galileae. I have lived long enough, having seen one thing, that love hath an end. Goddess and maiden and queen, be near me now and befriend. Thou art more than the day or the morrow, the seasons that laugh or that weep. For these give joy and sorrow, but thou, Proserpina, sleep. Sweet is the treading of wine, and sweet the feet of the dove, but a goodlier gift is thine than foam of the grapes or love. Yes, not even Apollo, with hair and harp-string of gold, a bitter god to follow, a beautiful god to behold. I am sick of singing, the bass burn deep and chafe. I am fain to rest a little from praise and grievous pleasure and pain. For the gods we know not of who give us our daily breath, we know they are cruel as love or life, and lovely as death. O gods dethroned and deceased, cast forth, wiped out in a day, from your wrath the world released, redeemed from your chains, men say. New gods are crowned in the city, their flowers have broken your rods. They are merciful, clothed with pity, the young compassionate gods. But for me their new device is barren, the days are bare. Things long passed over suffice, and men forgotten that were. Time and the gods are at strife, ye dwell in the midst thereof, draining a little life from the barren breasts of love. I say to you, cease, take rest, yea, I say to you, all be at peace, till the bitter milk of her breast and the barren bosom shall cease. Wilt thou take yet all, Galilean? But these thou shalt not take, the laurel, the palms, and the paean, the breasts of the nymphs in the brake, breasts more soft than a dove's, that tremble with tenderer breath, and all the wings of the loves, and all the joy before death, all the feet of the hours that sound as a single lyre, dropped and deep in the flowers, with strings that flicker like fire. More than these wilt thou give, things fairer than all these things? Nay, for a little we live, and life has mutable wings. A little while and we die, shall life not thrive as it may? For no man under the sky lives twice, outliving his day. And grief is a griever thing, and a man hath enough of his tears. Why should he labour, and bring fresh grief to blacken his years? Thou hast conquered, O pale Galilean, the world has grown grey from thy breath. We have drunken of things Lethean, and fed on the fullness of death. Laurel is green for a season, and love is sweet for a day, but love grows bitter with treason, and laurel outlives not May. Sleep, shall we sleep after all? For the world is not sweet in the end, for the old faith loosen and fall, the new year's ruin and rend. Fate is a sea without shore, and the soul is a rock that abides, but her ears are vexed with the roar, and her face with the foam of the tides. O lips that the live blood faints in, the leavings of rags and rods! O ghastly glories of saints, dead limbs of gibbeted gods! Though all men abase them before you in spirit, and all knees bend, I kneel not, neither adore you, but standing look to the end. All delicate days and pleasant, all spirit and sorrows are cast far out with the foam of the present, that sweeps to the surf of the past. Where beyond the extreme sea wall, and between the remote sea gates, waste water washes, and tall ships founder, and deep death waits. Where, mighty with deepening sides, clad about is the sea as with wings, and impelled of invisible tides, and fulfilled of unspeakable things, white-eyed and poisonous-finned, shark-toothed and serpentine-curled, rolls under the whitening wind of the future, the wave of the world. The depths stand naked and sundered behind it, the storms flee away. In the hollow before it the thunder is taken and snared as a prey. In its sides is the north wind bound, and its salt is of all men's tears, with light of ruin and sound of changes and pulse of years, with travail of day after day and with trouble of hour upon hour, and the bitter as blood is the spray, and the crests are as fangs that devour, and its vapour and storm of its steam as the sighing of spirits to be, and its noise as the noise in a dream, and its depth as the roots of the sea. And the height of its heads is the height of the utmost stars of the air, and the ends of the earth at the might thereof tremble, and time is made bare. Will you bridle the deep sea with reins? Will you chasten the high sea with rods? Will you take her to chain her with chains, who is older than all ye gods? All ye as a wind shall go by, as a fire shall ye pass and be past. Ye are gods, and behold, ye shall die, and the waves be upon you at last. In the darkness of time, in the deeps of the years, in the changes of things, ye shall sleep as a slain man sleeps, and the world shall forget you for kings. Though the feet of thine high priests tread where thy lords and our forefathers trod, though these that were gods are dead, and thou, being dead, art a god, though before thee the throned Cytherean be fallen, and hidden her head, yet thy kingdom shall pass, Galilean, thy dead shall go down to thee dead. Of the maiden thy mother men sing as a goddess with grace clad around. Thou art throned where another was king, where another was queen, she is crowned. Yea, once we had sight of another, but now she is queen, say these. Not as thine was our mother, a blossom of flowering seas, clothed round with the world's desireth with raiment, and fair as the foam, and fleeted and kindled fire, and a goddess and mother of Rome. For thine came pale and a maiden, and sister to sorrow, but ours, her deep hair heavily laden with odor and colour of flowers, white rose of the rose-white water, a silver splendour, a flame, bent down unto us that besought her, and earth grew sweet with her name. For thine came weeping, a slave among slaves, and rejected, but she came flushed from the full-flushed wave, and imperial, her foot on the sea. And the wonderful waters knew her, the winds and the viewless ways, and the roses grew rosier, and bluer the sea-blue streams of the bays. Ye are fallen, our lords, by what token? We wish that you should not fall. Ye were all so fair that are broken, and one more fair than ye all. But I turn to her still, having seen she shall surely abide in the end. Goddess and maiden and queen, be near me now, and be friend. O daughter of earth, of my mother, her crown and blossom of birth, I also thy brother, I go as I came unto earth. In the night where thine eyes are as moons are in heaven, the night where thou art, where the silence is more than all tunes, where sleep overflows from the heart, where the poppies are sweet as the rose in our world, and the red rose is white, and the wind falls faint as it blows with the fume of the flowers of the night, and the murmur of spirits that sleep in the shadow of gods from afar grows dim in thine ears, and deep as the deep dim soul of a star. In the sweet low light of thy face under heavens untrod by the sun, let my soul with their souls find place, and forget what is done and undone. Thou art more than the gods who number the days of our temporal breath. Let these give labour and slumber, but thou, Proserpina, death. Therefore now at thy feet I abide for a season in silence. I know I shall die as my fathers died, and sleep as they sleep, even so. For the glass of the years is brittle wherein we gaze for a span. A little soul for a little bears up this corpse which is man. So long I endure no longer, and laugh not again, neither weep. For there is no God found stronger than death, and death is asleep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. Read for LibriVox.org by Ben Lindsay Clark, treehousetheatre.com, in Bournemouth, England. Jabberwocky. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the Tumtum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy, O frabjous day, callooh, callay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Jumblies by Edward Lear. Read for LibriVox.org by Ben Lindsay Clark, treehousetheatre.com, in Bournemouth, UK. The Jumblies. They went to sea in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they went to sea. In spite of all their friends could say, on a winter's morn, on a stormy day, in a sieve they went to sea. And when the sieve turned round and round, and everyone cried, "You'll all be drowned," they called aloud, "Our sieve ain't big, but we don't care a button, we don't care a fig. In a sieve we'll go to sea." Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. They sailed away in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they sailed so fast, with only a beautiful pea-green veil tied with a riband by way of a sail to a small tobacco pipe mast. And everyone said who saw them go, "Oh, won't they be soon upset, you know, for the sky is dark and the voyage is long, and happen what may, it's extremely wrong in a sieve to sail so fast." Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. The water, it soon came in, it did. The water, it soon came in. So to keep them dry, they wrapped their feet in a pinky paper, all folded neat, and they fastened it down with a pin. And they passed the night in a crockery jar, and each of them said, "How wise we are! Though the sky be dark and the voyage be long, yet we never can think we were rash or wrong, while round in our sieve we spin." Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. And all night long they sailed away, and when the sun went down, they whistled and warbled a moony song to the echoing sound of a coppery gong in the shade of the mountains brown. "Oh, Timberlow, how happy we are, when we live in a sieve and a crockery jar, and all night long in the moonlight pale we sail away with a pea-green sail in the shade of the mountains brown. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. They sailed to the western sea, they did, to a land all covered with trees. And they bought an owl and a useful cart, and a pound of rice, and a cranberry tart, and a hive of silvery bees. And they bought a pig, and some green jackdaws, and a lovely monkey with lollipop paws, and 40 bottles of ring-bo-ree, and no end of Stilton cheese. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. And in 20 years they all came back, in 20 years or more. And everyone said, "How tall they've grown, for they've been to the lakes and the torrible zone, and the hills of the Chankly Bore." And they drank their health and gave them a feast of dumplings made of beautiful yeast. And everyone said, "If we only live, we too will go to sea in a sieve, to the hills of the Chankly Bore." Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Landing of the Pilgrims by Felicia Dorothea Hammonds. Read for LibriVox.org by Laura Armentrout. The breaking waves dashed high on a stern and rock-bound coast, and the woods against a stormy sky their giant branches tossed, and the heavy night hung dark, the hills and waters o'er, when a band of exiles moored their bark on the wild New England shore. Not as the conqueror comes, they, the true-hearted, came, not with the roll of the stirring drums and the trumpet that sings of fame. Not as the flying come, in silence and in fear. They shook the depths of the desert gloom with their hymns of lofty cheer. Amidst the storm they sang, and the stars heard, and the sea, and the sounding aisles of the dim woods rang to the anthem of the free. The ocean eagle soared from his nest by the white waves' foam, and the rocking pines of the forest roared. This was their welcome home. There were men with hoary hair amidst that pilgrim band. Why had they come to wither there, away from their childhood's land? There was woman's fearless eye, lit by her deep love's truth. There was manhood's brow serenely high, and the fiery heart of youth. What sought they thus afar? Bright jewels of the mine? The wealth of seas, the spoils of war? They sought a faith's pure shrine. Aye, call it holy ground, the soil where first they trod. They have left unstained what there they found, freedom to worship God. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Maldive Shark by Herman Melville. This is a LibriVox recording by Reese Harrison. About the shark, phlegmatical one, pale sot of the Maldive Sea, the sleek little pilot fish, azure and slim, how alert in attendance be. From his saw-pit mouth, from his charnel of moor, they have nothing of harm to dread, but liquidly glide on his ghastly flank, or before his Gorgonian head, or lurk in the port of serrated teeth, and wipe troubled tears of glittering gates, and there find a haven when peril's abroad, an asylum in jaws of the fates. They are friends, and friendly they guide him to pray, yet never partake of the treat. Eyes and brains to the dotard lethargic and dull, pale ravener of horrible meat. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Men Improve with the Years by William Butler Yeats. Read for LibriVox.org by Lamar Hawkins. I am worn out with dreams, a weather-worn marble triton among the streams, and all day long I look upon this lady's beauty, as though I had found in a book a pictured beauty. Pleased to have filled the eyes, or the discreeting ears, delighted to be but wise, for men improve with the years. And yet, is this my dream, or the truth?
Oh, would that we had met.
When I had my burning youth,
But I grow old among dreams.
a weather-worn marble triton among the streams. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
My First Cigar by Robert J. Burdett. Read for LibriVox.org by Francis Brown. www.franciselv.wordpress.com. 'Twas just behind the woodshed one glorious summer day, for o'er the hills the sinking sun pursued his westward way. And in my safe seclusion, removed from all the jar and din of earth's confusion, I smoked my first cigar. It was my first cigar. It was the worst cigar. Raw green and dank, hide-bound and rank. It was my first cigar. Ah, bright the boyish fancies, wrapped in the smoke wreaths blue. My eyes grew dim, my head was light, the woodshed round me flew. Dark night closed in around me, black night without a star. Grim death, methought, had found me, and spoiled my first cigar. It was my first cigar, a 6 for 5 cigar. No violet torch could e'er the scorch. It was my first cigar. All pallid was my beaded brow, the reeling night was late. My startled mother cried in fear, "My child, what have you ate?" I heard my father's smothered laugh. It seemed so strange and far. I knew he knew, I knew he knew. I smoked my first cigar. It was my first cigar, a giveaway cigar. I could not die, I knew not why. It was my first cigar. Since then I've stood in reckless ways and dared what men can dare. I've mocked at danger, walked with death. I've laughed at pain and care. I do not dread what may befall 'neath my malignant star. No frowning fate again can make me smoke my first cigar. I've smoked my first cigar, my first and worst cigar. Fate has no terrors for the man who smoked his first cigar. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
November by Alice Carey. Read for LibriVox.org by Laura Armentrout. The leaves are fading and falling. The winds are rough and wild. The birds have ceased their calling. But let me tell you, my child, though day by day as it closes doth darker and colder grow, the roots of the bright red roses will keep alive in the snow. And when the winter is over, the boughs will get new leaves, the quail will come back to the clover, and the swallow back to the eaves. The robin will wear on his bosom a vest that is bright and new, and the loveliest wayside blossom will shine with the sun and dew. The leaves today are whirling, the brooks are dry and dumb. But let me tell you, my darling, the spring will be sure to come. There must be rough cold weather, and winds and rains so wild. Not all good things together come to us here, my child. So when some dear joy loses its beauteous summer glow, think how the roots of the roses are kept alive in the snow. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Now is the Accepted Time by Edward Carpenter. Read for LibriVox.org by Sue Anderson. Amid all the turmoil and the care, the worry, the fever, the anxiety, the gloomy outlook, fears, forebodings, the effort to keep up with the rush of supposed necessities, supposed duties, the effort to catch the flying point of light, to reach the haven of peace, always in the future, amid all glides in the little word now. As when the winds of March with their long brooms sweep the dead leaves from the surface of the ground, and the earth in virgin beauty with the growing grass once more appears, so when all this debris of thought from the past, of anxiety about the morrow, is at last swept away, does the vast ever-present beneath reveal its perfect rondure. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Owl Critic by James T. Field. Read for LibriVox.org by Francis Brown. The Owl Critic. Who stuffed that white owl? No one spoke in the shop. The barber was busy and he couldn't stop. The customers waiting their turns were all reading the Daily, the Herald, the Post, little heeding the young man who blurted out such a blunt question. Not one turned ahead or even made a suggestion. And the barber kept on shaving. "Don't you see, Mr. Brown," cried the youth with a frown, "how wrong the whole thing is? How preposterous each wing is! How flattened the head is, how jammed down the neck is! I'm sure the whole owl but an ignorant wreck 'tis. I make no apology. I've learned owliology. I've passed days and nights in 100 collections, and cannot be blinded to any deflections arising from unskilful fingers that fail to stuff a bird right from its beak to its tail. Oh, Mr. Brown, do take that bird down, or you'll be the laughing-stock all over the town." And the barber kept on shaving. "I've studied owls and other night fowls, and tell you what I know to be true. An owl cannot roost with its limbs so well loosed. No owl in this world ever had his claws curled, ever had his legs slanted, ever had his bill canted, ever had his neck screwed into that attitude. He can't do it because 'tis against all bird laws. Anatomy teaches, ornithology preaches, an owl has a toe that can't turn out so. I've made the white owl my study for years, and to see such a job almost moves me to tears. Mr. Brown, I'm amazed you should be so gone crazed as to put up a bird in that posture absurd. To look at that owl really brings on a dizziness. The man who stuffed him don't half know his business." And the barber kept on shaving. "Examine those eyes, and filled with surprise taxidermists should pass off on you such poor glass. So unnatural they seem, they'd make Audubon scream, and John Burroughs laugh to encounter such chaff. To take that bird down, have him stuffed again, Brown." And the barber kept on shaving. "With some sawdust and bark I could stuff in the dark. An owl better than that. I can make a long hat look more like an owl than that horrid fowl, stuck up there so stiff like the side of coarse leather. In fact, about him there's not one natural feather." Just then, with a wink and a sly normal lurch, the owl very gravely got down from his perch, walked round and regarded his fault-finding critic, who thought he was stuffed, with a glance analytic, and then fairly hooted, as if he should say, "Your learning's at fault, this time anyway. Don't waste it again on a live bird, I pray. I'm an owl, you're another, so critic, good day." And the barber kept on shaving. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Plant Éternel by Lord Alfred Douglas. Read for LibriVox.org by Casper Nijssen. The sun sinks down, the tremulous daylight dies. Down their long shafts the weary sunbeams glide. The wide-winged ships drift with the falling tide. Come back, my love, with pity in your eyes. The tall white ships drift with the falling tide. Far, far away I hear the sea mew's cries. Come back, my love, with pity in your eyes. There is no room now in my heart for pride. Come back, with pity in your eyes. The night is dark, the sea is fierce and wide. There is no room now in my heart for pride, though I become the scorn of all the wise. I have no place now in my heart for pride. The moon and stars have fallen from the skies, though I become the scorn of all the wise. Thrust, if you will, sharp arrows in my side. Let me become the scorn of all the wise. Out of the east I see the morning ride. Thrust, if you will, sharp arrows in my side. Play with my tears, and feed upon my sighs. Wound me with swords, put arrows in my side. On the wide sea the haze of noonday lies. Play with my tears, and feed upon my sighs. But come, my love, before my heart has died. Drink my salt tears, and feed upon my sighs. Westward the evening goes with one red stride. Come back, my love, before my heart has died. Down sinks the sun, the tremulous daylight dies. Come back, my love, before my heart has died. Out of the south I see the pale moon rise. Down sinks the sun, the tremulous daylight dies. The white-winged ships drift with the falling tide. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Pumpkin by John Greenleaf Whittier. Read for LibriVox.org by Laura Armentrout. O greenly and fair in the lands of the sun, the vines of the gourd and the rich melon run, and the rock and the tree and the cottage enfold, with broad leaves all greenness and blossoms all gold. Like that which o'er Nineveh's prophet once grew, while he waited to know that his warning was true, and longed for the storm cloud and listened in vain for the rush of the whirlwind and red fire rain. On the banks of the Zinal the dark Spanish maiden comes up with the fruit of the tangled vine laden, and the Creole of Cuba laughs out to behold, through orange leaves shining, the broad spheres of gold. Yet with dearer delight from his home in the north, on the fields of his harvest the Yankee looks forth, where crooknecks are coiling and yellow fruit shines, and the sun of September melts down on his vines. Aye, on Thanksgiving Day, when from east and from west, from north and from south come the pilgrim and guest, when the gray-haired New Englander sees round his board the old broken links of affection restored, when the care-wearied man seeks his mother once more, and the worn matron smiles where the girl smiled before. What moistens the lip and what brightens the eye, what calls back the past like the rich pumpkin pie? O fruit loved of boyhood, the old days recalling, when wood grapes were purpling and brown nuts were falling, when wild, ugly faces we carved in its skin, glaring out through the dark with a candle within, when we laughed round the corn heap with hearts all in tune, our chair a broad pumpkin, our lantern the moon, telling tales of the fairy who travelled like steam in a pumpkin-shelled coach with 2 rats for her team. Then thanks for thy present, none sweeter or better, e'er smoked from an oven or circled a platter. Fairer hands never wrought at a pastry more fine, brighter eyes never watched o'er its baking than thine. And the prayer which my mouth is too full to express swells my heart that thy shadow may never be less, that the days of thy lot may be lengthened below, and the fame of thy worth like a pumpkin vine grow, and thy life be as sweet, and its last sunset sky golden tinted and fair as thy own pumpkin pie. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Reconciliation by Walt Whitman. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. Word over all, beautiful as the sky, beautiful that war and all its deeds of carnage must in time be utterly lost, that the hands of the sisters, death and night, incessantly, softly wash again and ever again this soiled world. For my enemy is dead. A man divine as myself is dead. I look where he lies, white-faced and still in the coffin. I draw near, I bend down, and touch lightly with my lips the white face in the coffin. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Sunday Morning by Wallace Stevens. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. 1. Complacencies of the peignoir, and late coffee and oranges in a sunny chair, and the green freedom of a cockatoo upon a rug, mingle to dissipate the holy hush of ancient sacrifice. She dreams a little, and she feels the dark encroachment of that old catastrophe as a calm darkens among water lights. The pungent oranges and bright green wings seem things in some procession of the dead, winding across wide water without sound. The day is like wide water without sound, stilled for the passing of her dreaming feet over the seas to silent Palestine, dominion of the blood and sepulchre. 2. She hears upon that water without sound a voice that cries, "The tomb in Palestine is not the porch of spirits lingering. It is the grave of Jesus where he lay." We live in an old chaos of the sun, or old dependency of day and night, or island solitude, unsponsored, free, of that wide water, inescapable. Deer walk upon our mountains, and the quail whistle about us their spontaneous cries. Sweet berries ripen in the wilderness, and in the isolation of the sky at evening, casual flocks of pigeons make ambiguous undulations as they sink downward to darkness on extended wings. 3. She says, "I am content when wakened birds before they fly test the reality of misty fields by their sweet questionings. But when the birds are gone and their warm fields return no more, where then is paradise? There is not any haunt of prophecy, nor any old chimera of the grave, neither the golden underground, nor isle melodious where spirits gat them home, nor visionary south, nor cloudy palm remote on heaven's hill that has endured as April's green endures, or will endure like her remembrance of awakened birds, or her desire for June and evening, tipped by the consummation of the swallow's wings. 4. She says, "But in contentment I still feel the need of some imperishable bliss." Death is the mother of beauty. Hence, from her alone shall come fulfillment to our dreams and our desires, although she strews the leaves of sure obliteration on our paths, the path sick sorrow took, the many paths where triumph rang its brassy phrase, or love whispered a little out of tenderness. She makes the willow shiver in the sun for maidens who are wont to sit and gaze upon the grass, relinquished to their feet. She causes boys to bring sweet-smelling pears and plums in ponderous piles. The maidens taste and stray impassioned in the littering leaves. 5. Supple and turbulent, a ring of men shall chant in orgy on a summer morn their boisterous devotion to the sun, not as a god, but as a god might be, naked among them, like a savage source. Their chant shall be a chant of paradise, out of their blood, returning to the sky. And in their chant shall enter, voice by voice, the windy lake wherein their Lord delights, the trees like seraphim, and echoing hills that choir among themselves long afterward. They shall know well the heavenly fellowship of men that perish and of summer morn. And whence they came, and whither they shall go, the dew upon their feet shall manifest. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.